Good morning, everyone. Please take your seats. We'll start in just a minute. Good morning, and welcome to the first FutureGrid Innovation Summit. I'm Charles Esser. I'm the Secretary General of E.DSO, and it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you here today to our first summit. It's great to see so many of you who I know and meet a few new people as well already. Looking forward to meeting some others of you later in the day. I will just have a quick welcome and go over a few practicalities before I introduce the chair of E.DSO, Johan Månstam. Yes, first of all, just to let you know that the event will be video recorded and made available on our website with pictures from the event. We also have a Wi-Fi, which there's a QR code for that. You can see it there. You also have a password and username there as well. Without further ado, I think I will call Johan Månstam, our chair, to the stage. So Johan, over to you.
So thank you very much, Charles, and also a warm welcome from my side. I am super happy to see so many people here in the room. And this is, as Charles said, the first E.DSO FutureGrid Innovation Summit. And I think we are trying to build on a tradition and continue the tradition of InnoGrid. And as you know, InnoGrid was the must-go-to event for 12 years until 2023, where we could have good discussions about how to transform the energy system, how to talk to project promoters, DSOs and TSOs together all across Europe. But I think it's now time to also really focus on the distribution grid, because distribution grids are playing and will play a very vital role in the energy transition going forward. They have become a crucial enabler for the energy transition. And it's not only to connect renewable energy, but it's also to make sure that we can also connect all those customers that want to decarbonize their processes, their industries, that want to take part of the energy transition by providing flexibility. New loads like e-mobility, that will become super important, and that will also put a lot of pressure on us to innovate and transform our business. I think a vital part of innovation that happens in projects. And as a DSO, we are always looking into opportunities, how to create new ways of making more of our business, making our business more efficient, making the grids more efficient, but more importantly also making sure that we can take care of the customer demands in a way so we can also support and drive the energy transition forward. Technology plays a very important role. And today, I'm really looking forward to a vital discussion, listening into the keynote speakers, but I also hope that all of us can engage in a lot of Q&As to really discuss. In particular, I'm super curious to understand a little bit more how incentives and regulatory frameworks can support the DSOs to continue the business going forward. But also how publications like the E.DSO's technology radar can help and contribute to drive the DSOs forward and drive, in particular, innovation forward. At the end of the day, we as DSOs, we need to make sure that we are never and relentlessly not taking away the focus on the customer perspective. We need to make sure that we help both businesses, society in general, but also large-scale industries to be competitive. It's all about making sure that we can have a competitive industry in Europe. And there, I'm also looking forward to look into what kind of technologies can also engage customers to be a part of this energy transition. For example, as I said before, to provide flexibility. But it's also very important to create partnerships to make sure that we also balance all the different perspectives together with stakeholders, not only the customers, but also the regulators and society in general. And at the end of the day, it's also a very important question about legislation. In the next years, it will be very important to continue to ensure that we have climate neutrality and that we support the society to be climate neutral. But it's also equally important to make sure that we connect the transition and decarbonization to competitiveness for industries and society in general. And the third perspective is also to make sure that we contribute to security of supply. I think we have seen many different perspectives on security of supply, how important that will become for the society. We have for years seen the climate change and the effects of what that have on our society. But we also see resilience becoming even more important, not only from a climate perspective, but also from a security perspective, given the situation that we have in Europe with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I'm totally convinced that the distribution network will play a very crucial role in both creating competitiveness, security of supply, and decarbonization going forward. As E.DSO, we recommend 4 key areas that needs to be addressed. The first one, that is about making sure that we implement the existing legislation all across Europe. In particular, what we mean is that it's very important to make sure that we have smooth, effective, and quick permitting processes. It's about simplifying and standardizing to make sure that we can have a smooth permitting process, to make sure that we can do those necessary investments. Secondly, it's also about financing. The cost to finance this will be very important. But it's also about making sure that we can have the financing so we can do anticipatory investments. I think anticipatory investments is key. We have gone from a very, I would say, stable situation where it was more about maintaining the distribution grid. And we are now in an extremely formative time where the demand is increasing significantly. And to make sure that we are competitive, it's about making sure that also the grid is ready when the demand is there. And with the solutions in the past will not help us going forward. And that's why anticipatory investments will be so important, to make sure that we can invest in advance with quick permitting processes, so it's possible to connect to the grid when the demand is there. I think it's important to state that we need to also look into what is the alternative if we are not doing that. And we are convinced that the cost of not having the grid available when the demand is there is significantly higher than the cost of doing anticipatory investments. But it needs to be considered in terms of affordability, and that is also something that is very important, and that leads me to the third element, which is about financing. I think the EU Competitiveness Fund will play a very important role, and it will be hopefully easier to access financing for the DSOs going forward. I also believe, or we believe, that the distribution or the distributed grid facility could be a possible way to also earmark financing for the DSOs. And last but not least, I talked about resilience. Resilience from a climate perspective. And there I would like to make a big shout out to our colleagues in Ireland, the EBS network colleagues, because they are still out there struggling to get all the customers back on the grid on the storm Irwin. And I think that also shows how important it is with collaboration. I think E.DSO is really the state of the art in terms of collaboration between the DSOs across Europe, which also meant that we have colleagues sitting in this room that also sent resources to Ireland to support the colleagues at EBS to manage this tough situation. So it's about resilience from a climate perspective, but it's also resilience from a security of supply perspective. And I think that is really important to continue to foster collaboration both with customer stakeholders and across the DSOs to make sure that we continue to tackle the climate impact, but also make sure that we have a resilient grid going forward. And last but not least, to also make sure that we have skills going forward. We know that we are increasing the investments all across Europe, and we also know that we need to further make sure that we have skilled staff all across, and that is also very important. So, with that said, and before I hand over the mic to all the keynote speakers, I would like also to thank some of our sponsors to the FutureGrid Summit. First of all, I would like to have a shout out to EPRI. Thank you, Mark, where you sit. I would also like to thank Over It. Thank you, Paulo. I will also thank, I would also like to thank you, Prismian Energy. Thank you, Cynthia. And then I would also like to thank you, our European research and innovation projects that E.DSO is participating in, also for supporting today's summit. And that is Be Flexible, Copper, Eclipse, and Twin EU. And we are very pleased to be partner with Energyville in this event as well. So thank you to all of you. So with that said, I hand over the mic to the keynote speakers, and I'm also looking forward now to a really active participation so we can have a vivid discussion as well. Thank you very much.
So now I'd like to call our three keynote speakers to the stage. Łukasz Kolinski, Director, Green Transition Energy System Integration, DG Energy and European Commission. Nicolas González Casares, member of the ITER Committee from the European Parliament, and Clara Poletti, Commissioner at ARERA, Chair of the E.DSO Board of Regulators and member of the SEER General Assembly. And very good. And we'll start. I'll hand it over to you, Łukasz, if you can sit or you can get at the podium as you wish. All right.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having invited me here to this super important conference. It's important because, as you will hear, grids are really front and center of the policy making, European policy making on energy, and it will stay this way. First, before I get to my points, I would like to refer to one point that Johan mentioned, and I think it's extremely crucial. Implementation of the agreed legislation, in particular for permitting. We see that the member states are, of course, progressing, but they need help, they need support, they need a push. So help us, please, to push us, the member states, in order to bring all these good rules that were recently agreed to be put in motion and to bring effects on the ground. Now on grids, electricity grids are not only at the core of the energy transition towards climate neutrality, but also at the core of all the political stakes, political discussion on competitiveness, on affordability of energy and security. The energy transition requires not only massive investments in our electricity system, but it also requires profound changes in how these systems operate. Traditionally, as you will remember, as concerns the power grid, the Commission focused on large transmission lines, in particular interconnectors between the member states. However, in the recent years, the distribution grids have recently come to the fore of our policymaking. And this is not surprising if you think that 70% of renewable energy sources will be connected to the distribution grids. It's not surprising if you think how many electric vehicles or heat pumps have been added to the system in the last years, and how many more will soon come online. Distribution grids will be the most impacted by this growth. In such an energy system, which is increasingly decentralized, DSOs naturally play a critical role in securing a reliable electricity supply and fostering a competitive European industry. Let me focus on 3 issues here: investments, digitalization, and innovation. In Europe's distribution grids, 40% are more than 40 years old, and they will need modernization. And it's very, very clear that we will need to expand network capacities enormously to be able to connect more renewables and additional distributed demand. I have seen a study recently which estimated that we should invest in the grids, in modernization, in expansion, in distribution grids, an eye-watering figure of 730 billion by 2040. Obviously, grids investments are primarily financed through network tariffs. However, these tariffs are already a large component in our bills. We need to think how these tariffs can be smarter, but also how new approaches to financing grid investments may help to reduce the impact of all these investments on the tariffs. We think in the Commission that private investment may need to be mobilized from a wider range of sources, which implies making grid investments more attractive for investors. Developing tools to mobilize long-term investors could be valuable. We have identified already several actions in the Grid Action Plan to improve access to financing for grid investments. In particular, we promote efforts to identify tailored financing models and address obstacles to private financing. But such financing requires stable regulatory frameworks and a sufficiently attractive return on investment. And this is something that we need to keep in mind as we move forward. Adding new grid capacity is necessary, but it's also expensive. And to keep this cost in check, we need a more flexible, more digitalized, more efficient power system. We need to be much better at using existing infrastructure. Since 2022, we've been implementing an action plan on digitalizing the energy system, which helps to make the overall transition less costly. For example, through being able to observe and control the grid in real time, it's a precondition to increase the flexibility of the energy system. Smart grids are now present everywhere across the EU. They expand their coverage and enhance their capabilities, for example, by including advanced energy management systems and solutions based on AI. If we tackle this right, we can integrate renewables better, we can integrate the energy system across various energy carriers and electrification of end uses such as heating and mobility, and we can enhance its resilience. Digitalization is also good for consumers, who can become more active in managing their consumption. There is a lot more that needs to be done in terms of grid smartening, particularly at the distribution level. Through the Connecting Europe facility, the Commission supports the development of smart grid technologies, and I can tell you that since 2014, over 400 million euros has been granted for smart electricity grids. This is a worthy investment. ACER assessed that digitalization of grids and using innovative grid technologies will increase their efficiency by 20 to 40% by 2040 and save us a lot of money on the new lines. But incentives for the uptake of smart grids, network efficiency, and innovative technologies are insufficient due to prevailing tariff structures. This is why ACER will include a recommendation of best practices to the promotion of smart grids and network efficiency technology through tariff design. At the same time, the European Union is heavily investing in research and innovation to enhance its competitiveness and maintain its role as global frontrunner in the clean energy sector. Horizon Europe provided over 600 million funding to projects on energy system, on smart grids since 2021. We will continue to bring substantial funding in this area in the years to come, so use it. To conclude, for all these reasons, grids are at the focus of the Commission policymaking on energy and beyond energy. We will very soon present a clean industrial deal and an action plan for affordable energy, which respond to the call of the Draghi report. The main goal of these plans is to help bring down energy costs and support households and industries throughout the transition. And in this context, we look very much into many issues related to European grids. You may have noticed that in the competitiveness compass, which was recently adopted, the Commission announced a grid package to be adopted next year. So there will be more action. Stay tuned for it. And with this, I would like to thank you and wish you a very, very fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kolinsky. And now I'd like to call Member of Parliament, Nicolas Gonzalez.
Thank you to all, and thank you for inviting me to this very important event. Thank you, of course, to the Association of European Distribution System Operators, to E.DSO, and to Morstan, that was previously the speaker, for the invitation, and congratulations on organizing the first FutureGrid Innovation Summit. I would like also to take the opportunity to greet Lucas Kolinsky and Clara Poletti and thank for the collaboration over the years. Thank you to all the participants. First, it is clear, and we have to maintain this perspective, we are committed to achieve climate neutrality in a profitable and sustainable way. It should also be our path to increase our competitiveness. How to do this? I think that one of the key solutions is electrification. We can cost-effectively decarbonize the economy through electrification based on renewable energies and promote other energy sources, such as green hydrogen, for example, in these sectors that are difficult to decarbonize. However, the European Union has a pending task with electrification of its energy demand. While we can hardly reach 23%, while, for example, China reached 30%. Our target, according with the Commission projection, is around 60% by 2050. We have a large gap ahead. Achieving this electrification revolution requires robust, future-proof electricity grids that can support a growing share of variable renewables. It also calls for a policy framework that encourages investments and actively involves consumers. With the participation, we can reach a more efficient energy system. You know, I'm coming from Spain, where the Iberian Peninsula remains isolated from the European grid. We need more interconnections to this gap. But regarding DSO and the role of DSO, at the heart of these transformations are DSO. With more or around 42.5% of zero renewables, we are talking about of 70% of renewables in the electricity system. So we know that DSO are keys to enable this possibility and to integrate this massive task that we have in the future. So a more decentralized energy system demands more focus on grid management. DSOs have a very important role to provide digital tools and active demand-side management solutions. This will allow consumers to optimize their energy use, reduce cost, and contribute to grid stability. There is the challenge of accommodate the surge in variable renewables and electrified demand, while ensuring cybersecurity and grid resilience. Let me point out the importance of the implementation. For example, with the revision of the electricity market design, we introduced mechanisms to tackle energy prices, integrate higher shares of renewables, including energy storage, demand response, and enhanced grids and interconnections. Key reforms related with grids include national flexibility assessments, allowing E.DSO and DSO to evaluate flexibility needs at both national and new level. Anticipatory investments, ensuring grids can accommodate future needs. Improve tariff structures, balancing CapEx and OpEx to support renewable integration while maintaining public acceptance. And of course, flexible connection agreements enable DSOs to maximize grid capacity efficiently. Last week, what is next? Last week, with the competitive compass, with the electrification action plan and the European grids package expected in the next year, the EU should establish clear measures to drive industrial electrification across all sectors. Taking advantage that we have somebody from the Commission here, I will also say that it's time to defend the Green Deal. It's not time to step back. It's not time to open again the things that we have made and committed in the past. It's time not to break the Green Deal. It's time to look forward. It's time to improve our competitiveness based in green technologies. This is a real path for the European Union. The only one, because we cannot rely on fossil fuels. So it's time to defend the Green Deal and not to open files that are not needed to open. I think this is an important message for the next weeks. On the Parliament, from the side of the Parliament, we have started to work on our report on grids nowadays, the INI grids. This event is perfect for receiving inputs to help to shape our position. And finally, let me say that we need a call to action. To ensure that the grids, the Europe's grids, are fit for future, we must implement a proactive planning approach, taking into account regulatory certainty. This means anticipating where new renewable generation and electrified demand will emerge and investing ahead of time. Crucial policy measures include, first, finance, aligning funding instruments with net zero targets, especially for DSOs. Faster permitting. While some progress was made with the Renewable Directive, further simplification are needed without compromising environmental and territorial cohesion. Efficiency first principle. Beyond investment, we must ensure that grids are used more efficiently. Innovations such as flexible connection agreements can enhance grid utilization without excessive expansion. Location signals. We need stronger location price signals to incentivize the optimal placement of supply and demand, reducing congestion and maximizing efficiency. And of course, in these times, we have to promote cybersecurity. And from my side, also as a Spaniard, I also defend addressing challenges in peripheral regions. For example, cost allocation mechanisms must reflect regional constraints. To finalize, the transition to a decarbonized electrified energy system is not a vision for a distant future. It is happening now. The actions we take today will define the energy landscape for decades to come. Europe has always been a leader in energy transition, But to maintain that leadership, we must act boldly, invest strategically, and innovate relentlessly. Thank you so much, and have a good day speaking about electrification and energy integration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicolas. And now I will call Clara Poletti, who is Chair of the E.DSO Board of Regulators, and Commissioner Herrera.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. Let me clarify that what I'm going to say is my own view. I was going through my old notes to prepare my speech for this conference, and I have a lot of notes. And I found documents that I could have copied and pasted for today's speech. Those documents were and are 15 years old, and they were pointing out to the relevance of distribution networks for achieving a flexible and decarbonized energy system, to the need for a strong regulatory framework able to support technology innovation, digitalization, and they were pointing to the need for appropriate data management and cooperation between DSOs and TSOs, and coordination between infrastructural investments and generation, and so on and so forth. So I asked myself, okay, is there any difference today? Are we in a different position today with respect to 15 years ago? Because it was already on paper. Everything was there. And I think we definitely are. Why? And it's fair to ask why and what is different today. First of all is, I think, the size and the speed of change. And this is a big challenge, has already been mentioned. The share of additional renewable generation that is supposed to be connected to the distribution networks. Euroelectric recently reported that in the period 2023, DSO's investments raised by 24%, which is huge, but is not as huge as the challenge ahead of us. In the period 2050, they are expected to increase by 80%. So this is the first difference. Things are happening, and they have to happen, and are happening very fast, but we need to accelerate. The second difference I see is an unprecedented uncertainty. We knew that uncertainty was coming, but what we are seeing today is big, is uncertainty on the evolution of electricity demand and supply. And here is not just the amount of electricity, the amount of demand, but is the way demand can move around with data center, for example, or the profile of the demand along the time. Apart from uncertainty on electricity demand and supply, we have a strong dependence of system operation on exogenous factors. Exogenous meaning something that is outside the DSO control, maybe because it's related to other system, or maybe just because they are weather events or even extreme events that we cannot foresee. This is something that we could have anticipated, but the impact, I think, of uncertainty is becoming stronger and stronger. A third difference I see is the need for customer engagement. We knew that was coming, but 15 years ago, the small customer especially, they were considered passive, and their participation in the system was not was not relevant, considered relevant. Now, it's not just a matter of technology. It was already mentioned, what type of technology can we use and develop in order to make customers more active? I think our issue with the customer side and the retail markets is that we need to better understand their behavior, which is something that we do not know very well, I think. And plus, we need to make sure that the technology is used. And we have a long experience with smart meters being deployed and not being used properly, I mean, not at full value. Let me give you an example. We have a lot of smart meters and still load profiling. How can I give a precise price signal if I have the smart meter that actually measures when I consume, but when I'm charged, I'm load profiled? So not just technology, but all the regulation and the system that is needed to make sure that the technology is actually of value for the future. And finally, cybersecurity. I think cybersecurity is something that was not in our radar as regulator and system operators maybe 15 years ago, and now is going to be a big challenge. It already is. Distribution networks will rely on smart meters, sensors, and real-time data to manage energy flows. And that makes them more prone to cyber attacks. All these challenges, they must translate in a change of or improvement of regulation. Regulation is already forward-looking, but it's forward-looking in the forward-looking aspect and of our regulation needs to be improved. We are working on infrastructure planning, integrated infrastructure planning, and that's very important. This is something new that we are implementing with you, with the DSOs at DSO level as well. But we have to make sure that our economic regulation is integrated with infrastructure planning. And actually, we have to stick, in my opinion, to regulating the service. I want to make sure that I have what I need. I don't care very much about the infrastructure per se. I care about what infrastructure is ensuring me. And if it's not an infrastructure that can give me that output, but a more smart solution, I would go for the smart solution. So from the regulatory perspective, my challenge today is to understand how to measure the output, the performance, and how to pay for that performance. Of course, infrastructures and infrastructure planning is part of that, but it means that I need to take a broader approach. Infrastructures are not enough. They are part of a bigger picture. I need to stick to an incentive-based performance where the DSOs and TSOs are incentivized to act for the benefit of the system where it's more needed. And that's another difference that relates to the uncertainties. It's difficult to understand how to prioritize things. And this is something we have to do, regulators together with operators. Try to understand how to identify priorities, because we cannot do everything at once. In my system, where should I convey investments first? And often our current regulatory frameworks are not designed to give priorities. They are more an overall package. We need to design a system that include resilience of our networks, and they are able to identify the type of interventions and actions that are more needed have more value for our customers. So when I look at investments, it's clear that cost efficiency is the guiding principle of any regulatory framework. This was in the past and is going to be in the future. And it's clear that we need a stable and forward-looking regulation. And this is crucial in order to reduce the cost of capital and overall to reduce the cost. But at the same time, I need to deploy the most efficient solutions based on output-based incentive schemes. This requires a sort of it's not a change of approach, because I would say the approach is always the same, but maybe it requires cooperation on understanding how to measure the performance. And the indicators, this is something, the smart grid indicators, something we are working on. This is a type of a reflection that European regulators are doing all together on how to improve incentives, how to move towards total cost type of regulation, a forward-looking type of regulation. Today, when looking at distribution level, of course, we need to address the issue of flexibility as well. And this is another challenge when to understand who is responsible for what, and to make sure that we keep a harmonized approach when designing market mechanisms that are meant, on the one side, to integrate our markets. So we have two big directions here. On the one side, we want to better integrate our national markets at wholesale level. On the other side, we are trying to develop more flexible solutions at distribution level. But there is where we need really, as regulators and as policymakers, to make sure that we do not have distortions. Otherwise, we run the risk of pushing in the wrong direction. On the flexibility side, we are working on demand response at European level with the ACER, and the proposal should be out by March. And demand response is not just demand response, because the network code is going to touch and adjust 3 other network codes. So you can see whenever you address one type of resource, you have to make sure that if you do not want to discriminate, you keep the old picture consistent. And we are working on the tariff structure as well, as was mentioned before. That's another important piece of work in order to try to harmonize more the way tariffs are set, or improve harmonization, even though the needs are different in different countries, and we need to keep that into account. So overall, I think it's a working process. And in order to be able to do our job, what we need as regulators is a clear direction or where we want to go. And so going back to the uncertainty, part of the uncertainty is knowing where we have to, where our targets stand in order to make sure that we are ready to get there. Otherwise, the uncertainty from the regulatory perspective would be too high, and the cost of the transition would be too high. Thank you. Thank you again for having me here.
A big round of applause for all of our keynote speakers. Really great, and thank you so much to all of you. And now we'll move from the current chair of the ACER Board of Regulators to the former ACER director, Alberto Potocznik. So thank you very much, keynote speakers. Alberto, the floor is yours.
Good morning. A bit of the dinosaur in the room. Thanks a lot for inviting me to this event. I think it's very appropriate that we talk about smartening the system, more innovation. We have a very distinguished panel now, and I would like to call on the floor here Mark van Stiepout. He's Deputy Head of Unit for Digitalization, Competitiveness, Research and Innovation at DGNR in the European Commission. Then we have Alexis Meletiu. He's Power System and Market Specialist at the JRC, the Joint Research Center. We have Jan Kula. He is a Business Development Expert at Chess Distribution, but also he's the Vice Chair of the Technology and Knowledge Sharing Committee at E.DSO. And finally, Santiago Gallego Amores. He is Network Regulation Manager at EDE, but he is also the project representative for Be Flexible. So please, I would like to invite my fellow panelists to join me on the stage. And while they take their floor, I would like just to say a very few words on this first part of the event. It's about smart system, and I take also from what has been said until now that the smart system is just more than a smart grid. It's the system as a whole. And I think when we look at smartening the system in innovation, I think we'll have to look at a number of dimensions. There are a couple of preconditions. Technology, we need to have the technology to smarten the system, but I'm not worried about this. Engineers are always miles ahead of everybody else, so that's fine. The second one is the economics, and that is a trickier because it's either the current economics, the future economics. We've been supporting renewables for 20 years or more on the expectation that they will become economically viable by themselves, and we are getting there. The economics is not just monetary. Sometimes its benefits are beyond that. So there is an issue of externalities as well. So these are two preconditions. There is no point to go after something that, even when you look at the wider context, would not deliver benefits higher than costs. And in benefits, I add a lot of everything in. Then there are two other dimensions. One is whether there is a commercial aspect, a business model. We may have a business model, we may not have a business model, but that is where we know whether intervention is needed. If there is a business model, you would expect the private sector to jump on it. The fourth aspect is financing, and there are investment. It's smartening the grid, smartening the system is just not investment. Clara mentioned, it's partly investment in networks. Maybe there are also procedures or sort of OpEx innovation, OpEx-based innovation. So that is, however, there are some investment that need financing. And once you've sorted out all of this, then regulation and policy comes in. It comes in beforehand, in fact, but basically they need to take into account whether there is a business model. If there is not a business model, understand how things can happen or can be promoted, provide the right financial incentives, regulatory incentives, financial facilities, etc. So it's a complex jigsaw, and I would say that in the intervention that we will hear in this panel, of which I received a bit of a summary, we will see all these different dimensions. So the first intervention is from Mark, from the European Commission. Mark, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Alberto. Thanks also, E.DSO, for inviting me for this conference and this panel. I would maybe highlight a few things. Of course, trying to complement also what Luca said before in terms of what the Commission agenda is like on on digitalization, innovation, and grids in more generally. So I don't think I need to mention that the distribution grids are very important. I think that was already mentioned extensively by the previous panel. And I think if we look at the challenges in terms of how we're going to make the grid future ready, or the system future ready and make it smarter, then of course I think we're here today and we have many conversations around this because it's actually quite a complex interaction of many different stakeholders that need to work together. I think if like Alberto, you said, if we need to create business cases for the things that we all know that we need. If we talk about flexibility, for example, and what Ms. Poletti was just saying about why are we still, let's say, billing consumers based on profiles instead of on adequate metering if everybody has a smart meter. These are, or why are we not using more of the smart technologies that are available? And I think that we have seen prove to work in many of the projects that we've been supporting through Horizon Europe. This is always, let's say, a very easy question to ask, but actually quite complex to see what we can do about it. And it is an interaction between the regulators, the network operators, and let's say the free market, the energy suppliers, the aggregators, and all those. And all of this is, of course, in a transition because we are looking for, if we talk about flexibility, if we talk about grid integration of renewables, we're looking for new models. And a lot of these things are, of course, also on our tables in terms of what we're looking at, supported by the analysis of the GRC also of what's happening in practice. And we don't start from scratch. This discussion has been going on for quite some time. I think now with the new commission starting, our new commissioner and his mission letter, it's clear that the grids is really one of the core issues of the coming year. It's a key part of competitiveness, the grids package that's coming, also electrification. If we talk about electrification, of course, we need to talk about what is the future of the grid. We need more digitalization, we need more innovation. And I think a few things to highlight that we are trying to, where we are pushing these things to come together is, of course, the work on promoting smart grid investments in the network by having created this group of regulators and system operators that work together to define smart grid indicators. I think Ms. Poletti was referring to this already, and we're very happy with how SEER is taking this forward in cooperation with the system operators, because this is, we're talking about indicators that is in principle something to measure. But the idea behind it is that by talking about output indicators in terms of performance of the grid and linking that with input indicators that give an indication of what type of investment is needed, it will give clear signals to network operators of what can we invest in terms of smart technologies in order to improve our output indicators. So it's also the merit is very much in the joint discussion and linking these things up so that it becomes easier for network operators to say, we're going to invest in these stuff, and we all have had a collective discussion where we realize that if we invest in some of these technologies, we can expect a better performance of the grid. So it's not just the indicator itself, it's also very much how that gives investment signals that we hope can trigger a practical change in the way we make investments in digitalization and innovation happen. Apart from, of course, the bigger point that we've been putting in a few regulations or directives in the last years around making a shift from CAPEX to TOTEX, or also triggering OPEX type of investments, which traditionally there was very much a focus on CAPEX. But how we actually make that transformation in practice, how regulators do that, is quite complicated, and we think that this type of discussion can help. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention briefly in terms of creating business case, for example, around flexibility, we think that one of the key issues is we also need to, of course, the network operator need to give signals of what is needed where and give a price on it, so to trigger a business case. So that's key, and that's one of the key parts of the network code. But making it easy for the market to bring that flexibility, to monetize it, and to bring it from many distributed consumers to network operators, that should also be made very easy. And that is one of the key issues we're trying to address with data exchange. If we have very many smart devices in our homes, and many more are getting smart. Every electric car is very, very smart. Every heat pump is pretty smart. But if all that smartness just stayed with the heat pump and with the heat pump manufacturer, then it's not very useful for the system. So making it easy to share that type of stuff so that people can make business cases out of combining different sources of data is key. I'll leave it to that for now.
Thank you very much, Mark. I will have a lot of questions, but I will wait it for later. Alexis, from the JRC perspective, what your contribution to the discussion on smart system?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I would like also to mention some key points and to add to our discussion. It's more than obvious that the European electricity networks are undergoing a period of a profound transformation, and I think the previous speakers have already said enough about all these new challenges, the electrification of key sectors like heating or transportation. Also, the aging of assets is another issue that should be mentioned. But also, most important enough is the increasing penetration of renewable energy sources, especially in the distribution networks. This is putting a lot of pressure, of course, in the distribution networks, and is challenging the reliability, the efficiency, and the security of the system. Today, DSOs have to deal with many different issues. Most important ones are the congestion, the limited capacity, the increasing demand for managing the networks, and over voltages, or issues that are related to voltage control. So to address all these challenges is not only investments that we need also innovative solutions, solutions and new technologies, market-based tools, and collaborations between key players in the energy sector. To achieve all this, we need a fit-for-purpose regulatory model that first of all, will accelerate the investments in an efficient way. It will provide also incentives for flexibility, innovation, quality of supply, and will drive, generally speaking, operational efficiencies. And here I would say also some words about our project in JRC. It's since 2016 that we are organizing the DSO Observatory. DSO Observatory is a periodic data collection exercise that is based on an online survey. And I would like also to thank all the DSO representatives for participating in this exercise also this year. And the upcoming report will be in a few months, and we have the participation of 54 different DSOs, European DSOs from 26 countries, and we will focus very much on issues like flexibility management, TSO, DSO cooperation, and another very interesting thing related also to the investments, the digitalization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexis. Jan, you represent here the DSO business, I believe. So you are, called to perform and to support the smarting of the system as a whole. So your perspective. You're also one of the leaders in the Technology and Knowledge Sharing Committee at E.DSO. So I guess you have a privileged perspective on this.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for inviting me here. It's a pleasure for me. Yeah, it was mentioned that I'm both sides. I mean, the DSO employee, actually, and the representative of E.DSO. Basically, I've been in DSO business for 11 years now, and I see that the pressure that coming to us is higher and higher. It's much higher than before, actually. I'm from Czech Republic, and basically the customer requests and climate goals, connection of renewables and everything, not only, but of course storage, which is a topic nowadays in our country. It's a huge pressure to us. Basically, I will talk about it more later, what is going on regarding regulatory framework in our country, and to point out some, I would say, good examples. But first, that's my other role here. I'm a Vice Chair of Technology and Knowledge Sharing Committee, one of 3 main pillars of E.DSO. And when we were looking at those challenges and requirements that are on us, we decided to mandate our task forces to come up with 2 initiatives. One of them is Technology Radar, and the second one is Success Cases. Just a few words about both of them. Technology Radar is a, we can say, report or output of many dozens of experts of DSOs companies. There are more than 30 DSOs in E.DSO, and almost all of them were invited and working on this common project. And basically, it's a way how we look at the innovation in the scale of impact and time scale. That means impact on DSOs and time scale that the radar or the technologies became mature and actually useful for us. And the success cases are the second initiative, and I will point out some examples. But first, what does it mean? It means that once we have this radar, and looking at the technologies that are somewhere in labs or somewhere on the market, actually we all know this technology readiness level, or sort of how we measure the maturity of the technologies. But that doesn't say what the impact on DSOs is or are. Basically, sometimes it could be like very, very innovative thing for many, many businesses, but not much to DSOs. And sometimes it's not so, I would say, visible thing, but the impact for DSOs and then to customers and the price or cost of electricity is very high. And if we have time, my third point would be, as I mentioned, to the regulatory state of what happens in Czech Republic, because yeah, as I said, it's a lot of requirements and a lot of push to us and to the TSO, and we have to somehow work with that. Yeah. So thank you for now.
Yeah, maybe we can cover that a bit later. I have also a couple of questions related to what you've just said. So Santiago, you are the innovator, right? As I understand. So how do you see the whole, what's the contribution of your cohort to the story of smart system?
Thank you, Alberto. Thanks for the invitation to this event. Let me start by explaining my triple affiliation here. In IDE is the DS of the Iberdrola Group, a Spanish system operator, then E.DSO, because we are members of this association, and then my role today, as Alberto said, is representative of the Be Flexible project, which is led by my company. So that's why Alberto was referring to myself as the innovator here. Yeah, the distribution networks are central to the Europe's security and resilience, and moreover, taking into account the transition towards a more decentralized system in which we need more stability. So stability, resilience, security, decentralization. These words have been said by the keynote speakers. I mean, and this is not the first time we are going to hear them, but also probably the rest of the speakers will use it because, I mean, they are, I mean, the key ingredients for what we are trying to prepare now. So the main idea is that, of course, we need to develop the grid, but in the right pace. We have to match the needs, the disruptive need for more connections of renewables, of demand coming from the data centers, e-mobility, which Jan is one of the experts in E.DSO. I mean, these kind of things make us to have to move very fast. But today we are in an event that the topic is innovation. And then we have the other ingredient that it's the innovation. We need to not only to talk about investments, but also about alternative solutions, like I think that was also mentioned previously. I mean, like the use of flexibility, demand response, digitalization. We heard about it previously. And also, I mean, more technological solutions like the ones that are explaining the technology radar of E.DSO. In the case of Be Flexible, which has 21 partners, 4 countries with 11 pilots, what we are trying is to offer and propose interpretable data exchange platforms in which the grid users can actively participate. This is one of the things that Ms. Poletti said in her speech. He said customer involvement. And I agree with Mark then that flexibility, demand response is not something that we can buy every day in the shop around the corner. It's not apples or, you know, or milk. I mean, this is one thing we learn. I mean, we have to get the user involved. They have to show appetite for participating in this kind of mechanisms. So Be Flexible is working on that. We are trying to rethink the way we can provide propose frameworks that work, that offer business models for these active customers, and then we can use this flexibility with enough liquidity. So it's useful. If not, we cannot, I mean, we cannot use it on a daily basis as we want. This alternative cannot work without the involvement of the normal customers, not only the more let's say, privileged because they have the technology and so on, but the massive number of customers will answer to the demand response and the requirements of us. So the question we have as DSOs, as system operators, is, well, we have 2 main ingredients. We have the investment, that for sure everybody talks about investment and the need for them, the frameworks and so on, but for the other one, how much efforts we have to put on them if we are not having the right response. But the answer is very simple, and I will finish with this. The answer is very simple, because the more we use both of them, investments and also the use of flexibility, the faster and the better we will get there. I mean, we are at the right moment to move fast in both directions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Santiago. I have maybe a follow-up questions for each of the panelists, and I would ask all of you to stay within a couple of minutes, and then I would invite, if there are any questions from the audience, I will try to see through the glare of the lights, raise hands, but I guess there are microphones in the room anyway. Mark, a question for you, because Johan, earlier this morning, he stressed the need for anticipatory investments, and we know. And we've seen what happens if you don't do it. Then Clara mentioned the fact that now we are facing more uncertainty than ever before. So we are trying to invest for the future for an uncertain future, so as to speak. Somebody has to stick the neck out. So what do you think what is the Commission doing? What do you think should be the role of the Commission in trying to promote, this smartening of the system in the face of so much uncertainty, and therefore maybe the reluctance of, the private parties to stick the neck out?
Thank you, Alberto. That's a very, very good question. I'm not sure if there's one easy answer to it, because if it was, probably you weren't asking it. No, I think there are a number of things to think of, and a number of things that we are doing and that are also on the agenda now to develop further, for example, with the grid package. I think that, first of all, there are some no-regret investments. So there is, I think, compared to where we are now, there are quite a lot of things where we already know that we need to do them, and even if there is more uncertainty, we know that it's needed. For example, we were talking about the smart grid indicators, which is, I think, very much also linked to that discussion on anticipatory investments, because it's trying to give an indication of what type of investments can we make if we want to increase the performance of the grid, or just meet the requirements that are coming. And in the discussions that we've had so far, of course, there is a lot of discussion of there is no simple list that goes for everybody. There are network operators are different, countries are different, but nevertheless, there is also a consensus of some indicators and some investments that just make sense in any case. And one of the things that came very apparent in the discussion was increased observability at the distribution grid level. So investing in more observability, for example, is one of the first things that I think is clear to everybody that needs to happen. Also in order to better see where the uncertainties actually then appear, because I think at the moment we're also still discussing, okay, we don't know enough about the grid. I think sometimes the situation is that, for example, transmission system operators, because of the managing the frequency and then interacting with electric cars that can help in frequency response, know sometimes more about what's happening in the distribution grid than the DSOs. And it's this type of exchange of information that also requires investments at DSO cooperation that is linked to observability, that are no-regret investments. So I think that's one, and then of course the question in that discussion on smart grid indicators on anticipatory investments is how can we make sure that the regulatory framework actually incentivizes these type of investments, instead of just saying investing in copper, because that's the easy and the obvious thing to do. So there is that discussion on how do we make sure that we incentivize the right things, but then of course we need to know what they are. There are some simple things that we know are there, and then of course we also see that it's getting more and more complicated. We know that there's going to be an increase in electric cars, or in heat pumps, but the market is also, let's say if you talk to heat pump manufacturers, it's on and off. Let's say 2 or 3 years ago were very good years. Last year was maybe not such a good year, and of course you see the direct impact in the grid. And I don't think there is a simple question. I think it is the dialogue that we need, the no-regret investments. I think it's a matter of also better sophisticated modeling, because we have 10-year network development plans of the TSOs, but we were recently visiting TenneT, and they also said, actually, we know pretty well what's happening in our grid, but the real gain that we're going to make is if we develop this type of view on investment needs together with the system, with the DSOs. So, no simple answer, but I think in terms of cooperation, more exchange of information, more observability, there are things that can help us reducing the uncertainty where we can still make steps. But some uncertainty will remain. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, we don't have the crystal ball. Thank you very much, Mark. Jan, you mentioned something going on in the Czech Republic. You wanted to share with us, but also was interested in your success story, success cases, maybe something which can inspire us a bit. But if you can keep it to 2-3 minutes, not more. I know it's almost impossible.
Yeah, definitely, I will try. Yeah, first I would like to start with an example of Czech Republic. Since I'm pretty close to the studies and analysis of what needs to be done until 2030, 2035, 40, regarding meet the climate goals and connecting of renewables, as I mentioned, storage, but also the new loads, as because actually maybe we are a little bit behind in the time. I mean, not so early in electrification, but still we say that we are ahead of age of electrification. For example, our E.DSO says that today we have approximately the net consumption like 58, 60 terawatt hours, but the projections until 2040 is 50% higher at least, so almost 90 terawatt hours of consumption in 2040. But we know that the regulatory framework that it's nowadays, I mean, we have the 5th regulatory period, it's actually fall short to provide the required financing. The numbers that we know is that we need additional 4 billion euros until 2030, so only for 5 years for the DSOs and TSO, and that's quite a lot. And there is a lot of push to also find non-financial solutions to make it happen, of course. But I wanted to point out one example. That's the discussion about the 6th regulatory period, which will start in 2026, next year. And after a lot of discussion, our regulator came up with a new sort of motivation, and it's similar, or it was mentioned before in connection with the smart grid indicator. We will have something similar, I mean, in the motivation of the regulation, and that's KPIs. We will call them the input KPIs because it's in investment motivation, and it will be based off first four KPIs. First, investments over depreciation, then investments into new technologies that was not before, then investments which will lead us reducing technical losses, and then share of smart meters, because in Czech Republic we don't have the rollout deployed yet. So that's regarding the situation. We hope that we will fill the gap, actually. We are one of the countries that could use the money from the modernization fund, which is definitely helping us. But there are a lot of things needs to be handled in between. And regarding use cases, I think this is worth to mention because it was part of our 2024 strategy in Technology and Enriching Committee. And actually, the main difference between radar and the use case or success cases is the real life usage of those technologies, because we don't want to talk about the academic descriptions anymore. We want to see how it's implemented. And if you look at it, because everything what I'm talking now, it's online. So please look at the website of E.DSO and Google the buzzword success case, and you will see there are 33 of them nowadays from all different DSOs across Europe. And the principle is very simple. We have 3 main chapters: the challenge, the solution, and the key success factors. That means and next steps, of course. And then you will see everything. Please look at it, and of course I'm very proud to my colleagues that we were able to make it happen there.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Yeah, we'll definitely go and have a look at. Alexis, I think Clara, and I think also Mark, mentioned the fact that maybe in the future we need to look at new types of investment, not only a new type of activities, not just investment in CapEx, but also maybe smarter solution. You have this DSO observatory at JRC. What's your take, and what do you think could be done?
Yes, of course. CapEx is really important, and investments are really important, and we know this. But of course, there are also other things that need to be done. One of these things is flexibility that needs to be explored also through the experimentation and the regulatory experimentation. At the moment, yeah, we have some very interesting data from the DSO Observatory. I need to consult also my notes. But yeah, it's interesting that 60% of the DSOs that we have surveyed have participated in regulatory experimentations. That's an important number, but still we would expect 100% due to the developments in the distribution sector. And out of this, we have like 74% are in small-scale smart grid projects, and 52% are participating in regulatory sandboxes. So it's not only the traditional investments that we need, but we need also to look into the correlation between OPEX and CAPEX. We need also to think about a regulatory framework that it would be symmetrically treating both OPEX and CAPEX, and incentivize, for instance, the procurement of flexibility, which is also in the directives. And this is another important aspect in what concerns flexibility. Yeah, right now we see that less than 50% of the countries they're involved in procuring flexibility through different forms, like platforms or through incentives that they are provided by the regulatory framework in the classical sense of penalty reward mechanism. For instance, in Ireland there is such a mechanism about flexibility procurement. So yeah, that's all from some thoughts also. It's of course not an easy question, and we need to think more about the investments and how we are gonna progress with this on this aspect.
Thank you very much, Santiago. Indeed, not easy, and maybe it's moving very slowly. Santiago, you mentioned one specific innovation project, this Be Flexible, but more generally, where do you see these projects coming in, and what should be, in which area of the electricity system do you see this project coming in, and what would the actual impact, and what can we expect from these projects? Is it sort of evolution, revolution?
Yeah, exactly. It's more an evolution, because this is the three project in a row, a big European project in a row that we participate. As said, this one is being led by us. The previous ones were Coordinate and OneNet. I'm sure some of you are familiar with them. But we thought that in this case, we now have to address the participation of customers. We were, seeing that in the previous projects that it was difficult, even in a project where you can, make laboratory conditions. Even in this condition, it's difficult to attract the customers because, of course, the big ones, the aggregators and so on, are always willing to participate, but we want to engage, to involve the large number of them. If we don't do so, flexibility will be just casual. It will be something that will be used for very specific cases. So the great thing about Be Flexible is that we are trying to propose solutions for several applications. It's not only e-mobility, but also renewables. We are working with buildings. We are working with thermal heating or use of heating for coupling with the electricity grid. We are using storage too. So various diverse kind of solutions, but also in different countries. And then with that, we are learning where and how will be the most cost-efficient, the most profitable, the most useful solution that we can, scale up and try to use in a real fire. And also, another thing is that we are, as said, we see, as DSO, we see two pillars. So one is of course, innovation. We are talking now about this, but also how this can match with the, with the traditional use, or traditional solution of investment that should be double in the next years. So, to make this comparable and also compatible in a way, and try to know where could be the right solution, the right balance between both of them. And if I may, I would say, we are learning also that, for example, in coming to investments, we will need to reconfigure, to repurpose the regulatory framework. We need to incentivize, the investments in certain cases more than flexibility, and vice versa. So that's something that we are learning, depending on the cases. And for sure, that DSO cooperation, as Mark was saying, is really relevant in this sense. I think that whenever we can work together, this is something that also that can help to find new solutions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think we have now just under 10 minutes left of this session. So I guess there are microphones in the room. If you raise your hand, the microphone will come to you if you want to ask questions. And then if you could please introduce yourself. And if the microphone can be passed to hands raised. One here at the front. Microphone can come.
Hello.
Okay.
Is that on? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Hello. I'm Tom Velli. I work at LCP Delta. We're an energy consultancy, and I head up our energy networks team over in the UK. One of the questions that I have for you is around flexibility and the harmonization of flexibility and the stacking of flexibility, so the revenue stack. And I'm curious for Santiago and others up there, it's a very complex market, flexibility. You've got multiple participants, and I suppose, how do you regulate, how do you choose, I suppose, the offering for flexibility? Because there's obviously tension. So if I take for the example of the UK, I suppose there's 4 participants. You've got your transmission network that want to participate in flexibility. You've got your distribution network that want to participate. There's a tension between those two. Then you have your energy supplier, which is providing the offer to the customer. And I suppose, and then you've got the customer, right? And I suppose there's this tension, and who do you choose first? Where's the priority? And how do you harmonize that?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I would probably take more than one question. So, one here.
Thank you. Oh, can everyone hear me? Yeah. My name is Luis. I'm the founder and CEO of Tether, a startup that provides flexibility using electric vehicles. To piggyback off of that question, what do you see as the role of explicit versus implicit flexibility when it comes to the distribution grid? Obviously, the transmission system operators, there's markets such as frequency regulation, et cetera, that use explicit flexibility. How do these harmonize with the distribution system?
If the panelists will be short in answering, we can take a third one.
Hello. Sorry. I had raise my hand. Thank you. Hi, I'm Sofia Rodriguez from GE Vernova Consulting Services, and I wanted to piggyback as well from the questions on flexibility, especially regarding the TSO-DSO coordination. When the TSO is activating, I guess, services for frequency, for whatever, how do we make sure that this coordination and visibility of what's being activated at DSO level, that the DSO knows what's going on in their system, but also that this happens in a harmonized way across Europe, that all of the, that how they interact with each other, the TSO and the DSO, is in a way harmonized.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we have the microphone here at the front?
Hi, my name is Marsha Paletti and I'm with Octopus Energy, so I'm head of the European System Change. We've got around 250,000 assets and around 1.5 gigawatts of demand that we're moving. So we're moving every night around 1.6 gigawatt hours. So that's a really useful asset. And my question to all of you is, we talk about business models, and we talk about flexibility as if it were an add-on to the system. And actually it's not. We're moving from something which was demand-led, where we had generation following demand, to a system which is generation-led, where we have to have demand following. And we've talked, the panelists have given a great run-through of the sorts of innovations that are going on. I haven't heard anything about how we're going to manage those sorts of controlled load at distribution level. And I think one of the things which seems to be becoming clearer is you're taking away diversity, so you're creating these settlement periods where there's very high demand, and there's no signal, no price signal coming from distribution networks. So a bit like the questions around implicit versus explicit flex, how do we make demand grid-friendly, and how do we do it quickly? Because the growth rate of EVs...
Thank you very much. So we have sort of 4 topics, 1 minute each. I will be very strict. Mark, do you want to start? And you can answer any or all of questions, but please stay within a minute.
And luckily, they're also all more or less around the same issue, so that maybe makes it easier to meet that, answering it in 1 minute. I think I addressed that, that question a little bit in terms of how do we make flexibility work, by mentioning the importance of making it easy for consumers to bring their flexibility, or to market the flexibility. When I say the consumer, it can be somebody else on behalf of the consumer, like yourself. It's not the consumer himself. But we need to make it easy. We need to avoid that if a consumer says, I have all these smart devices and I would like to earn some money with it, I don't intend to get rich of it, that he does need to bring in an installer that then has to make all these things interoperable, and that will cost him 2 days and a few €100. And I think this is feasible because all of these things are smart. So it's very much a matter of organizing, let's say, the back office of data exchange, and that is what we are setting up to do with the D4E. The business case itself, the question around the revenue stacking, how TSOs and DSOs cooperate, that is the key essence of the network code on demand-side flexibility. Implicit versus explicit, I don't think there is no preference. I would imagine that most of the value is in the implicit, basically responding to wholesale market signals, but when that causes a local congestion, that the DSO need to be able to step in and give a separate signal.
Thank you.
That's stacking it.
Thanks so.
Yeah, and I will continue on the last point that you made. So in Czech Republic, we are actually at the beginning of everything, flexibility, aggregators, but mainly what we are working on is the side of the DSO. I mean, what needs to be done to put those signals into the market. In the Czech Republic, we have now a new entity, which is Energy Data Hub, Energy Data Center, that will aggregate all the information and send it to the aggregators, then to the end customers. And for us, that means traffic light system, basically red, green. Red means stop doing anything because it's not secured. Green, everything is okay, and the orange in between, it's the main and the most important point. Now we are starting to developing it. So that will be the main task to the DSOs, not to make the market happen. That's up to you, up to the subjects on the market. But the DSO needs to secure the grid, basically.
Thank you very much. Now we're eating extra into our coffee break, so extra time. So Alexis and Santiago, really short.
Very short, yes. I want to highlight also the TSO-DSO cooperation. And there are some cases in the Netherlands with the GoPax platform, local flexibility platforms. There are other measures in Germany, like mandatory redispatch. And also in Italy, we see some cases like this for local flexibility platforms and cooperation between TSO and DSO.
Thank you very much. Santiago.
Very difficult questions to answer in a few seconds. No, as said, I mean, I have the affiliation. I can say one thing. I mean, okay, we are working with the projects that be flexible. That's one thing. Pilots, I mean, experience in the real field. But then we are also working with the network code as E.DSO, as DSOs. That is another field in which we are going for the regulatory proposal that can also complement what we are seeing in the field. Final remark, TSO-DSO cooperation in all the projects are always DSO and TSO, so this is a pillar in the outcome of it. And regarding the UK, it's good that you made the question because, I mean, we tend to see you as the reference for us because, I mean, we operate, I mean, E.DSO operates in the UK, Scottish Power, so we tend to use the example of that you have in UK as good experience and good thing to take for our experience. Sorry not to be more explicit.
Thank you very much. I think we've already eaten 2 minutes in your coffee break. So thanks, Mark. Thanks, Jan. Thanks, Alexis. Thanks, Santiago. And thank you for staying on. And I think there is a coffee now.
Thank you very much. I just will want to remind you that we'll have the second digital award today and that all of you will be able to vote. And the winner of the competition will be chosen by you who are here today. So there's a QR code, just to already get it into your phones because the voting period later today will be very short. And there also you will find outside you can talk to the different participants here, and the digital award will take place after the lunch break. So please find out, talk to the participants. You'll listen to their pitches later today and be ready to vote. Thank you.